Now let's add the depth of field. So if you remember from before, we have some depth of field settings here. So if you look at focus settings, if you remember, we've put it on a manual, and let's change this to 350. So now that we're in pilot mode, let's get some nice angle here and see how we can manipulate the depth of field. So two of the most important options for this are current aperture and focal length. So to demonstrate what this does, let's put this to 95. As you can see now, focal length is really long, and we can get this narrow depth of field to the character. And we're just changing a little bit of manual depth. We can see we can put, let's say, elbow in focus or something like that. Let's increase also this to see what happens. If you increase it, you can see the background coming into focus, which the reason why this happened is that the depth of field is not as narrow as before. Now it's way wider, and as you can see, the whole character is also in focus. So let's put this to 1.4 as before, and let's decrease this to, let's say, 50. And as you can see, we can get some really nice effects with this. And this all depends on how what effect you want to achieve. Another thing that we want to do, let's put this again to 95. Let's decrease the camera to see the whole character, and let's increase this to 350, let's say, maybe a bit more, something like this. We can make the hands in front in focus, and if you want to see which parts are in focus and the details, you can click on the draw debug focus frame. And now if you decrease this, you can see this line, and this line tells you what it will be in focus. So right now, let's see, now hands should be in most focus, and if you disable this, we can see the hands in focus. So this is kind of the way to visualize your depth of field, basically where it is in the scene. You can also use the smooth out depth of field, and you have all these different settings. But these two settings, aperture and focal length, are essentially the most important, and that's usually what you will be changing to decrease depth of field. And of course, if you remember, we can also enable tracking, choose the character, get some offset, maybe something like this. And now actually let's not do the tracking, but the focus settings. Here you can click on tracking and click on our character to basically get this effect where the character always seems in focus. So if you zoom in, now he kind of loses it because what is in focus is the point on his legs. But in general, it will seem like he's always in focus even if we are zooming in and out. But if we, of course, put this auto manual, we can see that he's in focus only when we are around here, which is basically telling us that manual sets the focus distance relative to the camera, and tracking sets it relative to the character. So it will always adapt so that this debug plane is always, we can actually visualize this. As you can see, this tracking, this debug plane is showing us that the depth of field is always on our character. And that's basically what tracking does. So that's it for the depth of field. In next video, we're going to add some movement to the camera.